all-time best, sharpest, disciplined, bravest, and true Filipino president, the Philippines' only president who transforms the country from rags to riches. He is the only president that dared to close the U.S. military base in the Philippines for 25 years, then for 5 years instead of the planned 99 years. Ferdinand Marcos, to be precise. Ferdinand Marcos was born on September 11, 1917 in Sarat, Philippines, and died on September 28, 1989 in Honolulu, Hawaii, United States. From 1966 to 1986, he served as the President of the Philippines. Let's find out who Ferdinand Marcos is and what martial law is. Discipline was enforced, although harshly, under Marcos' administration. In terms of economic policies, he established IRRI and made the country to Asia's leading rice producer. He is the only one who demonstrates that Filipinos are the most powerful people in Asia. During his administration, you couldn't sell the farmlands. Every day during recess, my granddad receives Nutriband for free. The peso to dollar exchange rate is nearly equal. You really aren't afraid to go out at night as there are no snatchers, hold-uppers, or drug addicts. They're all super scared to do such things as they'll be punished because we have the most powerful military in the world and thus are not afraid to go head-to-head with China. He is an excellent president, particularly for the poor. He is a president who is both just and fair. Acts of evil are not tolerated by him. Those murderers and rapists should be punished, giving low-profile folks fair treatment while also looking for their principal assets. He forbids overpricing so that all basic needs such as medicine and food are affordable to the poor. He focused on punctuality at work and even limited to the wealthy's panic buying so that the poor would not go hungry. So much infrastructure has been constructed. The Philippines appeared to be beautiful and peaceful. He is the absolute finest. Filipinos who lived at his time and who live now are aware of the significant differences. He previously stated that most Filipinos will face poverty 20 years after 1986 as a result of Cory Aquino's decision not to operate the Bataan power plant, only because Filipinos will remember Marcos because of the Bataan power plant. And now, Filipinos are facing poverty and a difficult life in the Philippines. Despite everything he did for the country, the late Ferdinand Marcos was called a dictator and has been a source of controversy ever since. During his period, the Philippines was beginning to spiral out of control due to the communist influence and penetration. Martial law was the only way to restore order and put his ideas into action. He declared martial law because he cherished democracy and his beloved country. If he hadn't enforced martial law, we would have been number 2 in Asia at the time, with one of the strongest economies, military might, and infrastructure. We would have been a communist country, and worst of all, the US have tried to invade us again. In 1972, Marcos declared martial law, setting the country on the path of dictatorship. Activists and suspected communist rebels and their followers were often taken up by the military and police under Marcos, and many of them were never heard from again. According to Government Commission, the Marcos dictatorship killed nearly 3,000 people and tortured thousands more. These atrocities continued until Marcos was deposed in 1986 by the People Power Revolution. He eventually fled the Philippines and died in the United States in 1989. His body was transferred to his home province of Ilocos Norte in 1993 and has been kept in refrigerated crypt ever since. What are the advantages and disadvantages of martial law? According to Ces Santos and Melanie Pinlac of the Center for Media Freedom and Responsibility, media professionals as well as opposition figures who denounced Marcos were detained in military camps. All media outlets must first seek approval from the Department of Public Information according to DPI regulations. Marcos also issued a presidential decree that made it illegal for anybody to undermine the integrity of the government through print or even simply possessing flyers about it. Everything was subjected to censorship. When Marcos went on borrowing spree in the 1970s and early 1980s, the Philippines acquired an external debt. It also violations of human rights. A according to the Manila Times, 3,257 people were murdered during martial law. American historian Alfred McCoy, author of A Question of Torture and Policing America's Empire, compiled the data. Military murder was the summit of pyramid of terror under Marcos. McCoy wrote, with 3,257 killed, an estimated 35,000 tortured, and another 70,000 arrested. Despite these disadvantages, the Marcos administration has a certain advantages. Infrastructures come first. Infrastructures in the country had flourished throughout Marcos administrations. According to the Max Sangil of Sun Store, the Marcos administration was able to construct the Philippines Cultural Center, Kidney Center, Philippine Heart Center, and Folk Arts Center. The Lang Center, the San Juanico Bridge, and the Manila Film Center were also built by Marcos. Second, according to Sangil, criminality decreased under Marcos' presidency due to the curfew imposed as part of martial law. Government agencies such as the Bureau of Customs and the Bureau of Internal Revenue were also less corrupt, to the point where they carried their own baon for lunch instead of eating at the Manila Hotel. Also included are transportation and geothermal energy. Marcos designed the North Luzon Expressway or NLEX and the South Luzon Expressway or SLEX. Manila Light Rail Transit or LRT was also established under his leadership. All these are still in use among Filipinos today. According to Lopez Link, the Philippines became the world's second largest geothermal power generator in 1983. Despite being called a dictator at the time, he was able to control the spread of horrible crimes such as drug trafficking. And compared to his predecessors' administrations, the crime rate is lower. The pricing of premium commodities is regulated, there was no such significant rise, and we're not as burdened as we are now. I believe life was better under Marcos' era. Marcos had more infrastructure and constitutional accomplishment than any previous president in the country's history. Marcos oversaw the building of 16,000 kilometers of feeder roads, 30,000 lineal meters of permanent bridges, a generator with an electric power capacity of 1 million kilowatts, and water services for 8 regions and 38 municipalities during his time in charge. He also wanted to strengthen the country's defenses against smuggling, crime, and graft. The North Diversion Road, presently known as the North Luzon Expressways, was built during his administration. Social justice finds real expression in development plans and activities under the Marcos era. These efforts aim to eliminate illiteracy, provide employment possibilities, equally distribute the benefit of progress, and introduce institutional change. President Marcos' dictatorship was intended to benefit the entire country, not just himself. Remember the EDSA revolution? When a ruler loved his countrymen, he has all the resources to stay in power, but he chooses to stand aside because he does not want to shed Filipino blood. I hope this video helps you understand who Ferdinand Marcos was and what he accomplished for us Filipinos and to our beloved country, which is the Philippines. Most importantly, I wish that every Filipino conducts their own research since history will reveal the differences in our lives now. Let us not hold anyone responsible for all the bad things which are happening. We are to blame because we have lost all respect, courage, as well as the morality, and as a result, we commit these terrible offenses. Ana Katrina Garcia Galanto as your speaker once again. Thank you so much and mabuhay!